Remember those fascinating Outlook reports we looked at from the US and UK? Well, get ready to hop across the channel because today we're focusing on France. Their reports are packed with insights about reindustrialization, manufacturing, technology, and everything in between. If you haven't joined us before, no worries. Catching up on previous episodes will give you a great sense of the bigger picture. Let's explore the exciting world of French industry together. As always, stay safe.
All right, so let's jump into this deep dive on France. We've got two reports here, one from 2017
Okay.
called Improving Investment to Foster Growth,
Yeah.
and another more recent one from 2024, Reindustrializing France by 2035. And looking at them together is really fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Because, I mean, in just those 7 years, the world has really gone through some major transformation.
Oh, absolutely. And you can see how France's priorities have shifted in response to that changing global landscape.
Exactly. So let's rewind back to COP17 for a moment with this report, Improving Investment to Foster Growth. It really, lays out this plan for encouraging economic expansion. What were some of the key takeaways you got from reading it?
Well, one of the things that really stood out to me was the emphasis on attracting foreign investment. It was really seen as a primary driver for growth. So there was a lot of focus on creating this favorable business environment, things like tax incentives, streamlined regulations, programs to attract skilled workers from abroad, really trying to make France an attractive destination for foreign capital.
That makes sense, given what was going on globally at the time. Globalization was really in full swing, and countries were almost like in this fierce competition for investment dollars. Did the report delve into any specific sectors where they saw opportunities for growth in France?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
They highlighted, areas like digital infrastructure, renewable energy, and biotechnology as key sectors for investment. And those were seen as, areas where France could really leverage its existing strengths.
I see.
Like its highly skilled workforce and its strong research base.
So it seems like even back in 2017, we start to see the seeds of this ambition for France to be a leader in the green and digital transitions, themes that become a lot more prominent in the later report. But I'm curious about the role the government was supposed to play in all of this. Was it more of a hands-off approach, or were they advocating for a more interventionist role?
Well, the report definitely advocated for a more active role of the government, but it wasn't about, picking winners and losers or engaging in some sort of heavy-handed industrial policy. It was more about creating the right conditions for growth. So, fostering a climate of innovation, investing in education and infrastructure, providing targeted support for those strategic sectors, really setting the stage for businesses to thrive.
So it sounds like they were aiming for a more balanced approach.
Exactly.
Kind of acknowledging the importance of market forces while also recognizing that strategic intervention might be necessary in certain areas.
Yeah, finding that sweet spot between encouraging competition and providing the support that some key industries need to really succeed.
But then we fast forward to 2024, and, well, a lot has changed. I mean, the energy transition has taken on this whole new urgency. Geopolitical tensions are, well, they're running pretty high, and there's this growing unease, I think, about the fragility of global supply chains.
Absolutely. And all of that is reflected in our second report, Reindustrializing France by 2035.
This report really captures that shift in the global landscape. It's not just about attracting foreign investment anymore. It's about strategically reshaping France's industrial landscape to meet these, new challenges and these new priorities.
Yeah, and I think one of the most striking things about this 2024 report is the emphasis on this concept of technological sovereignty. I mean, it was barely mentioned in the 2017 report. And by 2024, it's front and center. What do you think is driving this shift, and what does it actually mean in practical terms?
Well, I think the pandemic really had a big impact
on this thinking. And then the war in Ukraine, and the increasing assertiveness of China, all of that has really highlighted how vulnerable countries can be when they rely too heavily on global supply chains, especially for critical technologies. So technological sovereignty is essentially about, ensuring that France has the capacity to produce those key technologies domestically. reducing their dependence on potentially unreliable partners or countries that might not share their values.
So it's not about retreating from the world or like shutting down globalization altogether. It's more about, I guess, having more control over your own destiny, especially when it comes to those industries of the future.
Exactly. It's about, being able to make independent choices, not being held hostage to geopolitical shifts or the whims of other countries.
Right. Right. But this ambition to reindustrialize France, especially in the face of all these global challenges, it's a tall order, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, what does the report say about France's needs and constraints? What are the hurdles they have to overcome to actually pull this off?
Well, the report's pretty honest about the hurdles. It highlights the need for, massive investments in R&D, a much more agile and responsive regulatory environment, and a workforce that's equipped to adapt to this rapid pace of technological change. And there's also a recognition that France can't do this alone.
Right.
They need to forge strong partnerships, particularly within the European Union, to achieve these goals.
It sounds like they're acknowledging that reindustrialization in the 21st century, it's a really complex undertaking, requiring this kind of coordinated effort across multiple sectors and a willingness to be flexible, to adapt to a world that's constantly changing.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this comparison, between the two reports so interesting. You see this clear thread of continuity in terms of France's ambitions, their desire to be a global leader, particularly in those green and digital transitions. But the way they're approaching it, the strategy for getting there has really had to adapt to a world that's become, a lot more complex and unpredictable.
It's like they're saying, we still want to be a major player on the world stage. But the playbook that we were using back in 2017, it needs a serious rewrite.
Exactly. And that rewrite is still a work in progress.
Which is why this deep dive is so valuable, I think. By examining France's journey, by looking at how their strategy has evolved, we can gain some really valuable insights into the challenges and opportunities that other nations are facing as they try to, shape their own industrial futures in this new global reality.
Absolutely. It's a case study with lessons that resonate far beyond France's borders.
Okay, so we've got these two reports, right? The 2017 vision for attracting investment, then the 2024 pivot that moved towards strategic reindustrialization. But it's the global trends underneath all this that are really fascinating, especially how they're spelled out in that 2024 report. What really jumped out at you there?
Well, the rise of Asia, front and center, especially China. As a manufacturing powerhouse, it's inescapable. And you see the shift, right? 2017, it was all about joining those global supply chains. By 2024, it's acknowledging the strategic implications, China's dominance, and that need we were talking about for technological sovereignty.
So less about fitting into existing structures and more about building capacity to compete. Maybe even decouple in some area.
Exactly. And that ties right into the next big thing, which is how important technology and innovation have become. It's everywhere in that 2024 report. France has got to be at the forefront. They're saying AI, biotech, renewable energy. These are the industries of the future, not just to keep up, but to be a leader.
Almost like a race, isn't it? To set the standards, control the intellectual property, really set the agenda in these emerging fields.
That's it precisely. And the report's clear-eyed about the competition. China and the U.S. are named, straight up, as rivals in this tech race.
Big difference from 2017, where it was just about attracting investment from anywhere, including China.
Yeah, there's definitely been a shift in thinking there, a more realist view, I'd say, of global power dynamics. But we can't forget the other major force shaping all of this, climate change.
It's there in both reports, of course, but so different how they talk about it. 2017, energy transition is mostly an economic opportunity. By 2024, there's this urgency. Decarbonization isn't just an advantage, it's necessary for survival.
I think you put your finger on something really important there. In 2017, climate change was, for a lot of folks, it was still a distant threat. The 2024 report, it reflects a world where climate change is being felt, the impacts are real, the need to act is much stronger.
It's incredible how much has changed in just 7 years. Like in 2017, going green, it was a way to attract investment, be competitive. By 2024, it's become existential. It shapes everything they're doing on industrial policy.
And that shows you how fast these global challenges can move, from something on the sidelines to the center of policymaking. And France is a great example how national strategies have to adapt to keep up.
Almost like in 2017, the government's role was to cheerlead green growth. By 2024, they're conducting an orchestra, trying to get industry, research, regulations, all these different parts working together for this complex goal of decarbonization.
Now, that is a fantastic analogy, and it highlights the challenge. Policymakers, they need to see the whole board, how the pieces fit, and make choices that set their country up for success in a world that's, well, changing so fast and where everything's connected.
But no country can do this alone, right?
Ah,
How does France's strategy factor in the need for international partners?
that's crucial, and both reports acknowledge it. But the nature of those partnerships, that changes a lot. In 2017, it was attracting foreign investment. By 2024, it's strategic alliances, especially within the EU. Joint research, shared investments in key technologies, a coordinated approach to climate change. That's what they're talking about now.
Recognizing they need to team up, especially against giants like China and the US.
Exactly. The 2024 report's explicit. France's reindustrialization has to be part of a broader European framework. The EU is key to achieving technological sovereignty, economic competitiveness, all of that. But there's also this awareness that even within partnerships, France has to be strategic, protect its interests, make sure they're not just a junior partner in a bigger bloc.
Okay, so we've covered the why behind this big reindustrialization push. The world's changing. France needs more control over its tech, and climate action, well, it's not optional anymore. But let's get into the how. What's France actually doing to make all this happen?
Well, the 2024 report lays out a pretty detailed plan, actually, like a roadmap. And a big part of it, as we've touched on, is investment. But not just throwing money around, it's targeted. Strategic sectors, renewable energy, obviously AI, biotech, advanced manufacturing, the stuff they think is going to be the backbone of the economy in the future.
So they are picking winners, in a way, but not based on politics, more like what's France good at, what are the global trends, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the idea. It's supposed to be data-driven. Find the sectors where France already has an edge or where they could be a world leader. There's this phrase they use a lot, industrial ecosystems. It's about getting research institutions, startups, big companies all working together so innovation kind of feeds on itself.
Makes sense. It's not enough to just fund a few companies. Got to create the whole environment where new ideas can actually turn into, like, real products, real businesses.
Right. And that means regulations have to change, too. The report's pretty tough on how bureaucratic France has been, how risk-averse. They want agile rules, faster approvals, basically be more welcoming to entrepreneurs, to people taking risks.
It's like they're trying to shake off that reputation. That
Yeah.
it's hard to do business in France, too much red tape, all that. But can they really change that? I mean, it's been that way for so long.
Well, it's a huge challenge, but they are trying. Simplifying taxes, less paperwork, creating these special economic zones where the rules are looser, even these regulatory sandboxes where companies can test new stuff without getting bogged down by all the normal rules.
So some top-down changes, but also letting things bubble up from below, see what works. But all this investment, all this innovation, you need people who can actually do those jobs, the high-tech stuff. What about that side of things?
Education and training are like the core of this whole strategy. They're talking about a total revamp of the education system. Focus on STEM fields, of course, digital skills, and this idea that you never stop learning, reskilling throughout your career.
So not just sending kids out with a bunch of theory, got to have the practical stuff, experience, and the ability to, like, learn new things as the jobs themselves change.
That's it. And they're also trying to make the whole system more flexible. You can switch between vocational stuff and more academic stuff, learn new skills throughout your life, retrain if your industry changes. It's all got to be possible.
Because you're right, education can't be this one-time thing you do and you're done.
Yeah.
It's got to be constant.
Definitely. And France is hoping that, well, they have a good foundation, right? People are well educated, the social safety net is strong, there's this respect for learning intellectually. They're betting that'll give them an advantage in building a workforce that's, top-notch and adaptable.
But there's this big question, and the report doesn't shy away from it. Jobs. What about all the jobs that might disappear because of automation, AI, these new industries?
They're pretty upfront about it. Some jobs will go, that's inevitable. But their argument is, this whole reindustrialization plan, it'll create more jobs overall, just different ones, needing different skills. So lots of talk about retraining programs, unemployment benefits so people can bridge that gap, helping people find new jobs, even giving companies incentives to hire folks from industries that are shrinking.
So preparing people for the changes, but also a safety net for those who fall through the cracks.
Exactly. And there's this recognition that the whole thing has to be fair. Everyone's got to benefit from this new economy, nobody left out.
So it's tricky. Got to embrace the new tech, but protect workers too. Push innovation, but make sure things are equitable. Big challenge, isn't it?
Huge challenge. But they're ambitious, the vision is there, and they've got pretty specific ideas of how to do it. Whether it works out or not, who knows? But it's a really interesting case study, how a country tries to control its future when the world's changing so fast.
Yeah, it reminds us that the future isn't set in stone. We make it by the choices we make. France is choosing to invest in its people, go all in on innovation, build an economy that's sustainable, that can weather the storms. Time will tell if it works, but definitely worth paying attention to.
I agree. And there are lessons here for any country, big or small, that's dealing with globalization, new tech, climate change, all of it.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into France's industrial future. Hope you found it insightful, something to think about. We'll be back with more fascinating topics soon.